Police in Los Angeles County say a possible school shooting was prevented. A safety school officer overheard a disgruntled student at a school in Whittier, California last week and told authorities about it. Deputies went to the student's home where they found 2 AR-15 rifles, 2 handguns, and 90 high-capacity magazines. For more on this, we're joined tonight by Republican grassroots strategist Scottie Nell Hughes, who also worked on the Trump campaign. Scottie, nice to have you with us tonight. I just want first your impressions of the voices that you have heard on our coverage in this and from the students from Florida and also in Washington. What impresses you?
Well, I want to commend those students for taking the passion up and leaving class for something that they stand for. I think that's very good for them to do and something that I hope they will continue to do throughout their life. But I also think that even though they're very much worried about their lives, they also have to remember there are parents today that are grieving because they had to bury children because, once again, they're right. Our government has failed. But we have to talk about responsible ways to stop these massacres from happening. And no gun legislation is going to stop evil from doing evil. They will do it regardless. What we need to do, as our children are sitting ducks in our elementary schools, our middles, and our high school right now, is we need to arm security guards or arm our teachers after proper training and let them be able to stop the bad men. Because what all of these situations have in common is the bad guys always have the guns, and the only way they're stopped are by good guys arriving, usually on average 3 minutes later, with a gun to stop them.
Scottie, I get, protecting the schools with security and whatnot. Two things. I think arming the teachers is really an asinine idea. I mean, we're assuming that teachers want to possibly shoot somebody. It defeats the purpose. I mean, I think that the idea is to make sure that the guns don't even get into the classroom. So the security of the schools, and I think it's ironic that Trump is a builder. Maybe we have to rethink how we're building schools in this country so they're much more secure, almost like they're a fortress. But I just think, aren't we assuming a lot if we want to start arming teachers who aren't professionals? The president today says conceal and carry. Okay, that's a permit. Putting that gun in the hand of somebody, not everybody's an expert on handling it. What about that?
Well, let them make that decision, to be honest with you. You know, the county next to Parkland, the sheriff actually last week put out, I will train 50 teachers. In 20 minutes, that 50 roster was completely filled up with teachers wanting to be trained properly. Let's give teachers the choice. If they want to actually conceal and carry, let's properly train them and make sure it happens.
All right, now let's get to the politics of this. The president's put himself out there now. If he doesn't get something done, there could be political downfall for him because the politics of this is changing. But right now, the fact of the matter is the power in Washington is with the Republicans. If they don't want to change, change isn't going to take place. Your reaction?
Well, make no mistakes. The Republicans don't want to see another parent have to bury their child after a massacre school shooting. Now it comes to actual common sense legislation, not just sitting there and once again trying to impose gun legislation against the good people of this country. I think this is where we should have a common ground where we go in there and say, okay, how can we solve it? And you mentioned talking about making schools be fortresses. That's unrealistic considering our kids go out on the playgrounds, and in most schools, those playgrounds are open shooting ranges, unfortunately, for people that have mental disabilities or mental capabilities that want to go out there and think it's justified to go take a gun onto a campus.
Well, okay, the president is now putting himself out there, as I said. You don't think that there'll be any gun legislation whatsoever? I mean, the fact is if they get background checks, that's legislation. If they get changing the age of purchasing, that's legislation. But the elephant in the room is the National Rifle Association. What makes anybody think that they're going to move off their position, their strong stance? If you can't get it after Sandy Hook, when are you going to get it?
Well, I think you will see background checks, and I think that's something that even responsible gun owners like myself here in Tennessee, we have gun background checks, and I think that we should have that across the board. So I think that would be a positive. The problem is once you start, it's like they see a little opening. Once you give a little, they want more and more and more. And that's where I think gun owners are having to put their foot down and say, no, we're not going to give you an inch, because we know by the end of it, you will definitely start to corrode away at our Second Amendment right.
But the kids are saying something has to be done right now. Well, between right now...
Absolutely. Let's put the budgeting. Let's put security guards in every single classroom.
But between right now and November, it's the Republicans. The Republicans don't need one...
And I think the Republicans should do that. I think they should
Paul Ryan does not need one Democratic vote in the House to do something. In the People's House. Paul Ryan doesn't need one Democrat on board. He can get something done. And it's with the Republicans. We agree on that?
Absolutely, and I think if the federal government isn't going to do it, then I think these state legislatures should step up and find the funding right now. If we can find all sorts of pork projects for these governments, let's try to find that actually protect our children, and let's find the funding to put security guards into every school across this country.
Okay. Scottie Nell Hughes, good to visit. Thanks so much. Appreciate it tonight.
Thank you.